It is a great pleasure to welcome Caroline Owens on this program. She is a bluegrass musician from Nashville. How are you today, Caroline? Thank you for joining the show.
Glad to be here. How are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's 11 o'clock here, Nashville time, and you know us musicians, we don't normally get up early, and so the day is doing all right so far.
Mhm. Yeah. What's your typical waking up time?
Oh Lord, I'm embarrassed to say. No, normally it's probably 10:30 or 11, just like what we're doing right now.
Mhm. I see. So I hope you didn't just wake up to do
No,
this.
no, I get up anyway.
I see. Okay, that's good. So I would like to wish you a happy belated 4th of July. I wonder what do you guys do when that happens?
Well, we were playing actually in my hometown of Denton, North Carolina on the 4th. So we had all, the regular 4th of July festivities. We had our music and fireworks and cookouts and that kind of thing. So that's typically what we do for the 4th.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So what's the weather like in Nashville?
The weather today is very, very humid, just like it is, I think, just about everywhere in the South right now. You walk outside and it's just like, mm. You could grill an egg on the sidewalk, or fry an egg, not grill an egg. Geez Louise, but no, it's humid. It's very hot outside.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a friend who was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he described it as hot and humid too. And it's the same with the weather where I was originally from, Hanoi, Vietnam. So we have that in common.
Yes, we do. Wow. Where do you live?
Currently, Vienna, Austria.
Oh, wow. So you're a pretty good long ways from Nashville, aren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't say I've been to it, but I hope to be at some point.
Come on down.
I'd love to. And if you're still there, I would like to meet you in person too.
Absolutely, would love to. Yeah, I think I'll be here for the weekend. We had some things to do with a record label, get some new videos out there, so that'll be fun.
Hmm. Yeah. So tell me about growing up in Nashville. Have you always lived here?
No, actually, I'm from Denton. I'm from North Carolina,
Mm.
and I actually still live in Denton. I just come here when I need to. So life in Denton was a lot here in Nashville.
I see. Yeah. So are your parents musical people?
No, not a single one of them.
Hmm.
But both of my grandfathers played music. My mom's father played music, and my dad's father plays as well.
Uh-huh. All right. So tell me about growing up in North Carolina.
Growing up in North Carolina was it's pretty good childhood, a very good childhood. We live, like you're saying, Denton, North Carolina, which is a very, very small town. It's so small that if you blink, you'll miss it when you go through. We only have a couple of stoplights. There's just a couple of gas stations, a couple of restaurants. I mean, it is a very small town. It's almost like one of those Hallmark movies where you're watching and it's the girl goes to the small town and she meets the guy, and that's exactly what Denton is. And so life is very simple, very simplistic. My mother homeschooled us. My grandfather was a preacher, and things were just very simple, but also very good. So if I had to describe life in Denton, I would say it was simple but good.
Hmm. So is your grandfather still a working as a preacher?
Well, when I was younger, like I said, I grew up in a Baptist church, and he is probably in his 70s now.
Oh, okay.
But when I was younger, he did a lot of preaching, and that's actually where I got my start singing. I
Hmm.
was 2 when I started singing, so I didn't grow up in bluegrass. I actually grew up in Southern gospel. So those were two worlds that kind of collided there between Southern gospel and what I do now.
What was church service like? And also, are you still attending?
I do still attend church when I'm not on the road. Um, Growing up in the Baptist church, it was a really good way to get brought into the music as well. Because you're always learning how to, sing in the choir, or you're singing solos, or you're singing by yourself, and you're getting introduced to an audience that's very gracious, and they're okay if you make a mistake. And so growing up in that sort of setting, it was really helpful, I believe, to the way that I feel on stage now, because the crowd was so welcoming and people were so genuine.
I see. So tell me about the guitar that is sitting next to you.
Well, this guitar has a very special story to it. It is a pre-war, made by the Pre-War Guitar Company over in Hillsborough, North Carolina. And it is a beautiful guitar. It is custom made. Every guitar they make is custom made over at Pre-War. And it's got a beautiful sound to it. It's probably out of tune right now, but it's very, I'll see if you can get up close a little bit to see it there. And it's got the old markings on it and everything. It's made to look distressed. And this is Brazilian rosewood, one of the finer woods that is put on a guitar. And it's got, of course, your kind of design there on the back. And it's got the old tuning pegs. And it's got a little bit of a wide neck on it, just like your 1930s model. And let me see if I can show you a little bit on it. It's probably out of tune, but I'll let you hear what it sounds like to pick a little. Let's see. Oh, Lord, it's out of tune. Let me tune it really quick. Let's see. There we go. When you're traveling and you change places and you're traveling in the car and it gets hot and then it gets cold, it changes tuning pretty bad. Let's see. There we go. Let's get closer. Okay, I'll show you this one. Show you what it sounds like a little bit. Oh, Lord have mercy. I thought it was better than it was. There we go. Ah, there we go. It sounds a lot better when it's in tune. We always like to try and get things in tune before we play them. It was still out of tune, but it was a little bit better. But no, that's the pre-war guitar right there.
Mhm. How many of them do you have?
I just have this one. I do have I do have several guitars. My grandfather gave me a lot of guitars when I was younger to influence me to play more. And so I have a couple of guitars, but that is my main stage guitar. I also have a Blue Ridge that I like quite a bit too, but this is number one for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, when did you decide that you wish to, well, one, pick up the guitar and do music as a full-time gig?
Well, I started playing guitar when I was 12 and got a little bit more into bluegrass through the guitar, of course, learning how to play an acoustic instrument. I had always played around the house and sang, of course, since I was 2 and played the piano. Started playing the piano when I was 8 years old. And so having this was a big confidence booster to be able to get on stage and to have something accompany me. So that was really what got me into bluegrass as an instrument, but mainly what got me into bluegrass and, helped me decide what I wanted to do was my hero, Alison Krauss.
Mm-hmm.
And so the guitar was the first step to getting into the music, and my hero was another.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a great fan of Alison Krauss too. My favorite album ever is that one that she did with Robert Plant, right? Raising Sand. That's a wonderful album.
That's a favorite of mine too. I love the Raising Sand project. I love Raise the Roof. I've listened to the brand new one.
Mm-hmm.
Raise the Roof. It's just phenomenal. It's just as good as the first one, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, yeah. She's I think she's the most famous amongst the bluegrass performers, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And she was the one that introduced me to the genre of bluegrass. And I wonder, in your view, how is it different from, say, country?
Oh, well, it's a lot different. It's a lot different from modern day country, but as far as classic country, sometimes the worlds can merge together. And they did quite often. You see sometimes in a lot of your classic country arrangements, you'll hear a mandolin and you'll hear a fiddle, and you may hear a pedal steel, of course. So as far as classic country and bluegrass, the two worlds can go hand in hand, but I would say with modern day country, not so much.
So one of my previous guests on this show is a renowned fiddler from Canada, Natalie McMaster, and she did a song with Alison Krauss too called "Get Me Through December." I don't know if you've listened to that one.
Yes, I love it. That's one of my favorites actually, and I had forgotten about that tune. I used to wear it out. Yes, it's a great tune.
So aside from playing the guitar and the piano, do you play other instruments?
I dabble a little bit. I'm not good or proficient on other instruments, but I can play around on the mandolin and the fiddle a little bit. But it really it'll put me in a bad mood because it's so hard, and I pick it up and I can't play it. And so I would say I'm mainly only proficient on the guitar and the piano.
Let's see. So I wonder, have you seen the movie by the Coens brother called "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou"?
I have seen pieces. I have never seen the full movie, but I've seen, portions of the movie. And it was a really big success, and it was a really big thing, but I've seen portions of it.
Yeah, the soundtrack was partly contributed by Alison Krauss and company, and there's that one song. Was it "As I went down to the river to pray"? I think that's the first line of it. Yeah, yeah, it's a wonderful song. Mhm. So, do you remember the first ever bluegrass performance that you've ever did?
Hmm. I can tell you the first one that I ever heard, and that was Allison. I heard Allison sing Heaven's Bright Shore,
Mhm.
and that when things really started to, the wheels started turning for me. And so I remember probably the first performance type thing that I would do would be going into jam sessions and starting there. And that was some advice that Allison had given me as well, was to go into jam sessions and to meet people and to start a band. And so some of the first performances or some of the first, sort of, um, branching out was going to jams and fiddlers conventions. That's what I did.
Mhm. Have you got a chance to see her, Allison?
Yes, I have met Allison on a couple of occasions, and she's been wonderful. It's they always say don't meet your heroes, because they don't want you to be disappointed. But I was not let down by any stretch whatsoever. She's amazing.
Mhm. No, I thought so too. So, tell me about your band, Caroline and Company.
Yes, so I'm very lucky. I get to travel around with an all-star group of guys, not just on the stage, but they're just all-star musicians, wonderful people. I'm just so privileged to get to play with them. On the mandolin, we have Spencer Strickland, who is one of the finest, not just in my opinion, I would say, mandolin players that's ever picked up the mandolin. Wonderful, wonderful picker. So privileged to be playing with Spencer. And of course, we have Zach McLam on the bass. He's your two-time Spigma Bass Player of the Year here in Nashville, Tennessee. Just a wonderful guy, wonderful to travel with. He's just amazing. And Chase Bennett on the 5 string. We love to have him. He's a wonderful picker. He's a little bit more new into the world of bluegrass, and so, but that does not stop him one bit. He's one of the finest banjo players that I've had the privilege of picking with, and I'm so blessed that I get to play music with these people.
Mhm. Tell me about how the band got started.
The band formed in 2020, March of 2020. So as you can imagine, we were pretty busy.
Mhm.
um, but we formed. It was a totally different configuration then, but the band did form in March of 2020, and we started booking shows and seeing what we could do and what we could play. But really, we didn't get to branch out a little bit until 2021. When things started to calm down a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah. So how was living through COVID where you are?
Oh gosh, it was, it was something that none of us had ever gone through. So it was very isolating. And I know that it was a scary time for a lot of people. It scared me, and I kept thinking, probably like most of us, well, it'll be over in a couple of weeks and we'll get to go back to life and as we know it. But, it never did. And so things were I felt very isolated. I think like a lot of musicians, and a lot of people just in general, but especially musicians, you make your living off of being around people and getting to play for people. And so when that was something you couldn't do, it was very hard. So life in the pandemic was something I don't even like to think about. I think like most of us probably.
So you guys released your album Applejack as Carolina Company. So it was like smack dab in the middle of COVID time. So was the album recorded during the pandemic?
I cannot remember. I want to say that it was, and I want to say that we started it before the pandemic and ended it afterwards, if my memory is correct on that.
Mhm.
So probably what you hear, a lot of it was tracked in the pandemic. We would go in separately and record things. Of course, we wouldn't all come together, but that whole timeline is a blur. But yes, I believe we started in 2019 and finished in 2020.
Mhm. I see. Yeah, it's not a good time remembering back in those days, even though they wasn't that long ago. But I this is a challenge. I wonder if there any good thing that you can think of that was brought on by this sudden interruption of life in general.
It made me more appreciative to get to play music for real people and a real audience. We had gigs and we could play for cameras and we could live stream things, but something about the energy and just having people there to listen to you and to get to sit there and feel their energy and feed off of it, that is something I will never, never take for granted again.
I understand. And do you remember what your first post-COVID performance was?
Hmm, I'm racking my brain. I cannot recall. I'm sure that it was probably somewhere more local. We weren't doing a lot of traveling then just because of us being new and because of the pandemic. It was probably something around home, something close nearby.
I
And
see.
I know for sure because nothing was happening then.
Hmm. Okay. So what is the furthest that you've traveled to perform your music?
So far, it's been Nebraska.
Hmm.
Nebraska has been the furthest that we've within the states, and that was 20. I believe it was 23 hours from home.
Oh wow.
It was.
How how did you travel there?
We flew, and that was actually my first time flying, and
Oh.
I was scared to death, and I did not like it.
Hmm.
I thought I'll get used to it on the way back, but I never did. I do not like to fly.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, flying commercial can be a challenging experience. I've done a good number of those in my life, sometimes to other countries. So yeah, it's uh it's a nightmare for sure.
I couldn't imagine going to another, country. I mean, we just traveled within the states, so goodness. Ooh,
Mhm. Yeah. Are there any countries that you would like to go if you have a chance to?
Ireland. That was an easy one. I have wanted to travel to Ireland for such a long time. I just think it's a beautiful country and I just love it. I've dreamed about playing there since I was a kid. And of course, a lot of your bluegrass music originated from, Irish descent. And so that's a really interesting place to get to bring the music back to. So we'd love to go to Ireland.
I see. Yeah. In Canada, the folk music tradition is pretty much Irish in its influence.
That's
And
right.
yeah, I lived in Canada for a good number of years as an undergraduate, so I was familiar somewhat with the folk music scene there. Mhm. So, where would be your favorite place to perform, either locally or around the United States?
Well, we haven't played this one yet, but I can already tell you it's going to be my favorite, and that's Dollywood.
Oh,
We're scheduled to play in October for the Harvest Festival, and Dolly is one of my biggest heroes in the whole wide world. And so getting to play Dollywood is, I can already tell you, that's going to be a favorite.
hmm yeah. So, tell me about the influence that Dolly, I'm assuming, is Parton, have upon you.
She's one of my biggest, like I say, and she is my biggest influence vocally. Probably that is who I listened to so much growing up. I have almost every vinyl you can think of, every Dolly CD. I even have a cardboard cutout in my room, as creepy as that sounds.
Mm.
I didn't recently purchase it. I had it as a teenager, but that is my biggest influence. She shaped everything about me, how I sing and how I perform and how I do, just things on the daily. I even catch myself, but Dolly has been my biggest influence probably in my whole career.
hmm Yeah. Well, yeah, she's awesome. I wonder if you've seen the movie Steel Magnolias.
Of course.
Yeah,
I
she's.
love it. I love it. I've
Mhm,
seen Still Magnolias, the new Coat of Many Colors movie. I've seen a couple of them, and a couple of them twice. I've
mhm,
probably seen Still Magnolia 5 times.
mhm. Yeah. I showed my parents that movie, and they really like it. I think their favorite scene is that one with Sally Field when her daughter dies, and that is yeah, that's the most heart-wrenching scene, I think.
Oh gosh, I can't even watch that part.
hmm Yeah, and of course, Dolly represents this generation of country musicians, specifically country music women that was in the 60s and 70s, and some of them even earlier. I'm thinking of people like Patsy Cline and Tammy Wynette, and of course, the recently passed away coal miner's daughter, Loretta Lynn. They embodied a very different attitude of country music compared to what we have nowadays, don't you think?
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, when you look at people on stage today, I mean, if you ask, I would say if you take a poll of 10 ladies that are influenced in country music or in the bluegrass genre, their names are going to come up. It's going to be Dolly or Loretta or Allison or
hmm
Patsy. It is going to come up. So, talk about trailblazers.
hmm
That's a trailblazer.
hmm So speaking of, I wonder if you have any thoughts or feelings regarding Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. I think Taylor is amazing. I love what she has built. She has built an empire for herself, and she's one of the most successful artists of my lifetime.
Mhm,
And I applaud her. I think she's wonderful. I know that a lot of people. Some people don't like her, and some people do, and some people love her, and some people don't. And that's going to happen. But I think from a female perspective, who is also a singer and who is also knows what it's like to be in the music business, I applaud her. I think that what she's doing and how she's done it and what she's managed to do, I say go for it. I think that's wonderful. She's done it, and I
mhm.
applaud it.
I see. Yeah, I've interviewed many people who are in the country music scene, many of them Canadians, and yeah, they all profess their love for Taylor Swift in some way, shape, or form. But for me, I always prefer the older generation of country musicians. Yeah, I haven't found the appeal in Taylor Swift yet, unfortunately.
Well, I don't know a whole bunch of her songs, but I do admire her as a songwriter. So that's one thing I can say for sure that she's wonderful as a songwriter as well.
hmm Yeah. So, speaking of, I wonder if you could share with us your most recent songs that you've listened to either on Spotify or other music streaming platforms.
Yeah, I listen to a little bit of everything, especially traveling down the road. You have a lot of downtime to plan new songs and to plan new things and to listen to new things and kind of open up your mind to different types of styles and different genres of music. So I don't listen to just one genre. I do listen, of course, to some bluegrass and classic country, but I love my jazz and I love my folk, and I listen to so many different things. Of course, Allison and Dolly are on repeat constantly, and I have a lot of new people that I like to listen to as well. But I would say the people that I listen to most are my heroes, and those are probably my most recent Spotify. If you look at my playlist, that's probably who I've listened to the most
Okay,
recently too.
I see. So, what are some of your favorite non-country, non-bluegrass musicians?
Oh, I'd have to say Nora Jones. That's the first one that comes to my mind. I love her. I think she's amazing. I'd
Right.
love to see her in person.
Mm-hmm. Right. She was the one with that album "Come Away with Me," right?
Yeah,
That's really
yeah,
good too.
love it.
Mhm. Yeah. So, I wonder if, being born and raised in the South, I'm assuming, what connections can you draw between the genre of music that you've chosen to play, bluegrass music, and Southern American culture?
Well, bluegrass is very accessible in the South, and of course, country music is too. And especially in North Carolina, bluegrass is pretty much a metropolis around there, and so it's easy to find a jam session pretty much on any given night. And so I think that that's partially what influenced me was the accessibility of the genre and just being able to play it when you wanted to. That's a privilege.
Mhm. So let's talk about your latest single. It's titled Heartbreak Train. It was released
Yeah,
this March, and I'm sure you're very proud of it. So tell us about the making of the song.
I am very proud of it. I'm very proud of all the hard work that went into it, with the musicians that came in and cut the tracks. And I'm proud of how it turned out. I'm proud of the record label, the way that they were able to get it going and get things moving along. And so I always tell people I didn't actually like the song when I wrote it, but I like it now. We're lucky that it's done so well for us, and we really appreciate it a whole bunch.
Mhm. What changed your mind specifically about the song? You said that you didn't like it at first, but then
I guess it was when I heard that other people did. I thought, okay, well, maybe it's not so bad. Sometimes it takes hearing other people go, hey, I like it, for you to like it. You know what I mean?
yeah, I understand. Have you performed it live?
Oh, we have. We usually do it just about every show that we play, especially with it being, on the charts. And of course, we have some new singles coming out too. So we're getting it into the rotation and we're playing it live as much as we possibly can.
Mhm.
I would play it for you today, but I don't have the band, and it's awful without the band. You
Right.
gotta have a band. So,
Of course, yeah, I think by the time that this recording airs, you would probably have released something new. So, why don't you tease us out on what your upcoming music may be?
well, I can tell you that I'm going to record one of the videos for it today. I can
Hmm.
tell you that. I can tell you that it has to do with the state of Kentucky,
Hmm.
and it has to do with heartbreak, and it has to do with the color blue. How about that? There's three little hints. It has to do with the color blue. It's about the state of Kentucky, and it's about a heartbreak. Of course, we love to sing about heartbreak. Couldn't have anything happy.
Yeah, and I'm very excited about the recording, the music. So yeah, I think heartbreak is a very prominent theme in country music as well as bluegrass
Sure.
music. Yeah, both Dolly and Allison and of course Taylor Swift have done it. So what can you say about how and why the subject has become like such a key theme, such a backbone in the music scene that you're in?
Well, we're all just demented. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that it's such a heartbreak is something that everyone's going to experience, and so I think that it's relatable for people. I think that people want to hear about heartbreak because they've been through it. And I know I have, and I know you've probably experienced it. And so when people hear it, they go, "Oh wow, I'm not the only one." So I think people love it for that reason. They feel less alone.
Hmm. Yeah, and so assuming that you do listen to like a good number of male country artists, do you notice the difference between how the topic of heartbreak is treated in, say, male country music songs like the ones by Cash or Nelson versus the ones by Dolly or Loretta.
Oh yeah. But I could talk about that for a long time. And I think that too is just the way that the difference in the male mind works and the female mind works, and we can get into anatomy and biology. And if we do that, we'll be here all day because I'm a big guru in medicine and things like that. But yes, I think there's a big difference in the way the female brain writes and the way that the male brain writes. And I think that's not just in writing, that's just in everyday life. But yeah, there's a big difference. I think the male perspective of heartbreak is totally different than the female, but I think that both probably feel that pain equally.
Mhm. Yeah. I noticed too that whenever a male singer-songwriter writes about breakup, he often delves into how much he feels, like how the
Hmm.
breakup makes him feel. I think it was that song "Delia's Gone" by Johnny Cash is a good example of that. And in terms of the female perspective, it's often the memories that was associated with the relationship before the breakup happens, and now she remembers it, but in a different light, given that the relationship is over. So I think that's what I've noticed.
You're correct.
Mhm. So of course your new single has the name Heartbreak in it. So I wonder if any and all personal experience came into the writing of the song.
Oh, I'm certain that it did. I'm sure that something played a role in it. I'm sure I was probably heartbroken at some point. It's been so long ago. Um, but teenagers and you go through things and you think you're gonna marry every boy that you see, and I was never quite like that, but I think that you can experience it at any age, and you can experience it as a teenager. You can experience it in your 40s. You can experience it, all the way up into your 90s, and even if you turn 100. I think that it's a universal feeling, and I think going back to that topic of why people like heartbreak, it's because they know what it's like to be through it or to go through it.
I understand. And pardon me for saying this, but I don't I have no idea what your age is, but I'm definitely sure that you sound a lot older than you are right now.
I get that quite a bit. And I was even like that as a kid. I was always worried about something. I was always acting older than I was. I'm 21, but I probably act like I'm 35.
Oh wow.
But catch me on a bad day and I can act like I'm 16. So just my mood.
Yeah, I wonder if you're the oldest sibling.
I am. How'd you know? And I'm a Pisces too. That probably has something to do with it.
Yeah, I see. So do you have younger brothers or sisters?
Younger brother, he's 18. Doesn't care a thing about music.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, I have a younger brother too. He's also at the age of 16. He recently celebrated his birthday this last week, on the 6th. And yeah, he doesn't care very much about what I do either. Uh,
And it's a good thing though because it keeps you humble.
mhm, mhm,
You've been standing, and there's people wanting to talk to you, or maybe there's someone wanting a CD sign or something, and you can feel really good about yourself, and then your brother can come up to you and say, "Hey, what do you think you're doing? You're standing in my spot."
mhm.
He doesn't much care what I think.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned that your parents did not were not musical people. I'm sure they
Uh-huh.
do listen to music, and I wonder, does being the only person in your immediate family who's interested in the same things that you're interested in, uh, is that like provide a hindrance, a challenge to say your connections with your family in some way, shape, or form?
Um, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that before. Actually never even thought about it before. Now you got me thinking really deep, which I love. I don't mind thinking deep. I think that I don't think that I was ever misunderstood or anything. I think that my parents did a really good job of putting me out there in music. I think that they did understand what I was doing, and that to this day they still support me and travel with me. And so, no, I felt like I was always exposed to the right things, and I felt like everyone had the same goal for me that I had for myself. And of course, I get along and good with other artists too. We kind of understand each other really good.
Hmm.
But my family still understood what I was doing and they still supported it, and I didn't have a hindrance or anything. I felt just like I was being supported and pushed along and exactly what they were supposed to do. So
Mhm.
no, I didn't really have any hindrance being the only musician. No.
That's good. Yeah.
Thanks.
It took me some years to come to that mentality because when I was a kid, because I didn't have any friends, I kind of hoped that my parents would take an interest in what I do. And also my younger brother for some reason. But nowadays I don't see that as necessary. As long as they as long as they don't pose a challenge to what I
Yeah.
do every day, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I think that it's good to have support if you can have it, and I'm lucky that I do have it with my family. But if you don't have it and you still have the drive, I would say to keep going because there's someone out there that's enjoying what you're doing. So
Mhm.
I would say keep pushing.
Yes. So I wonder if you, as a live music performer, if you still get nervous every time you enter the stage and about to perform, and how do you work through that nervousness?
I'm the human embodiment of nervousness. I am a constant, a nervous person. So I especially get nervous on stage, but it's a good nervous. It's I'm excited for what we're getting ready to do, kind of nervous. So it isn't a bad thing. I don't think it doesn't ever really interfere with anything that I do. But of course, I get nervous on stage, but mainly it's before I get on, the unexpected of what the crowd's going to be like, what the sound's going to be like. So when I get on there and everything's looking good and everything's sounding good and up to what we want it to be, then I'm ready to go. Let's turn it loose. So I would say I get nervous beforehand, but during it, I'm okay.
Okay. Um, I hope I hope you didn't get nervous before starting this interview, but I assume that there must be parts of you that may, well, have been.
Oh yes, it is. I always get nervous. I don't want to say something wrong. Hopefully, I haven't today.
Yeah, I've done plenty of these conversations, and I still get nervous every time
Yeah.
it begins because most of the time it involves meeting someone for the first time virtually, and it is quite certain that uh, during the time of the pandemic, COVID, my already terrible social skills have been shot up to pieces, and now I'm not sure how to play along anymore.
You sound like me. I I do fine, interacting in crowds and everything, and no one ever knows that I'm more of a quiet type. That I'm quiet myself, so I understand.
Mhm. Yeah, despite the fact that I have a talk show, yeah, I'm also a very quiet type. I'm not this chatty in real life, so to speak.
Me neither.
Do you find that music is the better way of expressing yourself, your feelings, longings, and desires than actual talking?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I can't say it to you, I'd like to say it in a song, and I've written lots of things in songs that I wouldn't say. And so I think that it's a wonderful way to express yourself. And I've kind of found myself just being around other musicians that that's pretty common. A lot of your musicians are quiet and they are kind of choir and to themselves. And so when they write a song, that's generally what they're feeling that they're not saying. So I think that writing and music and any form of art is a creative expression, and I love it.
Can you name an example of a song or several songs that, whether or not they have words in them, correctly encapsulates your feeling and emotions than any other attempts at language?
Hmm. Oh my gosh. I love these questions. You're really making me dig deep into the archives of my brain. There's some scary ones in there too, probably. Um, yeah, I have a couple that I would say kind of embody what I do, and maybe let's see. A lot of them are very sad. They're about heartbreak or something like that. I would say that Heartbreak Train, also the one that I wrote, captures a lot of the things that I felt in my life before. And I could name a couple of tunes myself that resonate with me. Most of them are Dolly or Allison.
Mhm.
I can't think of specific ones offhand, but I'm sure I will as soon as we hang up. That's how it goes.
I see. Um, so one of my favorite artists is the Canadian musician and poet Leonard Cohen. I'm sure you've heard
Yeah,
of him.
of
Um,
course.
he has a collection of posthumous songs called "Thanks for the Dance," and I've been listening to that very recently. And I feel like I've listened to enough of his songs to quote them when I remember it. And this is one that I have listened to for a few days now. So it's in that collection. It's titled "Moving On," and it goes with it. I love your face. I love your hair, your t-shirt, and your evening wear. As for the world, the war, and all, I ditch them all to love you more. But now you're gone, as if there never was a you, queen of lilac, queen of blue, who's moving on, who's kidding who. Yeah, he's a wonderful poet, and it's much better when it's put to music, trust me.
No, that sounded good. And as you were saying that, I remember one that was sort of for me that always gets me, and that's that song called Old Flame.
Hmm.
And there's a line that just kills me, and it says, gosh, what is it? It says, there's an old flame burning in your eyes that tears and makeup uh, can't disguise. And then it goes to I believe it's the second verse, and it says, talks about this person moving on with their life, and it says, I might be a memory before too long. And it's something about the way that it just gets me every time. I can't even listen to it. So, um, yes, talking about sad songs and things that resonate, they'll get you every time. I can't listen to.
Yeah. I wonder if you've had any experience with moving on from a particular heartbreak and whether or not the process is more difficult than what everyone makes it out to be, which is always is, right?
I think everyone's different, and people have their different ways of coping with things. And I'll be quite honest, some things you never get over, and some things you always live with. You're always going to run into that person, and it's always going to bother you. At least for me, it's always going to be that way for things in my life because I'm just a very sentimental person, and people mean a lot to me. And so I think that heartbreak is different for everyone, but there's a common ground too. So that's a really interesting subject, and something that I could also talk about for a long time. So I guess to answer in short, heartbreak is different for everyone, but there's a common ground too, in the way that we're all human and we all feel to some degree. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Mhm. And of course, music also helps, right?
Yes, music is a good form of expression to get rid of some of it at least. You can't get rid of all of it, but you can sure try.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I get the impression that you are a very cheerful person, so I wonder if this is who you are in real life too.
I try to be. I can tend to be. Sometimes I'm the cheerful one. Sometimes I'm, I try to be cheerful all the time, but sometimes I'm not always cheerful. But yeah, I try to keep a positive outlook on life, and especially in music. You try to stay positive and try to do all that you can do. And a part of that is staying positive. So I do try to have a good attitude about things. I don't always get it right, but I do try to.
Mhm. Yeah. My younger brother is the more cheerful person than I am. I would say so. So.
Yeah, same with me.
Yeah. So yeah, I wonder what are some of the interests that your brother have?
Hmm. Well, he's a lot different than me. He's your typical 18-year-old boy. He loves his cars, and the boy owns more cars than I've ever seen anyone in my life.
Oh wow.
So he loves mechanic type stuff and
Ah.
racing, all the stuff that boys like to get into. That's him.
Mhm. I see. Yeah, my brother's really into video games, so I guess
No,
he's your
yeah, that's
typical 18-year-old, but of another variety, I say.
oh yeah. That's another one too.
So, what kind of music that your parents listen to?
Hmm. Well, like I said, I grew up around a lot of Southern gospel, so we listened to a lot of Southern gospel, and my mom listened to a lot of country, so we had a lot of different things.
Mhm. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think we touched on this last time, but yeah, tell me about the role of church in your life. Oh, just to disclose, I'm also a religious person. I go to Catholic church every Sunday. So yeah, I can is having a bigger role in my life. That is something that I will admit to.
Yeah, church definitely had a big role in my life. Um, and I think more so just having a relationship with the Lord, more so than just church. I think it's more than just church, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. How do you develop or cultivate a personal relationship with Christ?
Cool. Um, that is a subject that very deep.
Mhm.
I believe that everyone has their own personal relationship with him. And I know that mine's probably different than yours, and yours is probably different than mine. And so I think that cultivating that is just different for everyone, you know.
Mhm. Yeah,
But oh, so, and I think that's the main thing. I think that
mhm.
we're all made in His image, and um, that's what counts. So cultivate your own relationship, and He can do the rest. He
Mhm.
knows what He's doing. Always has.
Yeah, and it's dawned on me that God created us well, although in one image, but He created us in a very different ways. He gives us different gifts, and He gives us different challenges. Some of us become born again, so to speak, at a very old age, like myself, and some others are born into it. Some, serve the Lord in different ways, whether in missionary work or such. Some try to study the way God and the world
Mm-hmm.
works, like me. That's why I named my podcast Unlicensed Philosophy, because I think philosophy is also a gift of God for humans to understand how God, human, and the world works. And some of them, maybe like you, you know, try to, I guess, show or express God's gift to you by the medium of music.
I like it, man. You are one of the best people I think I've had the opportunity to talk to. I love your questions. I love how in depth you are. You're really making me dig into those archives in my brain back there. And so I'm seeing a couple of scary ones too. We're trying to get rid of those too. But thank you. These are awesome questions.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Friedrich Nietzsche says that if you stare too long into the abyss becomes you. But he also emphasizes the importance of looking into the dark recesses so that you can come out a stronger person. And I think somebody like me who kind of has to do it once in a while, I find that to be a necessity.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
And so, tell me about some of your upcoming shows that you may have.
Oh, well, we're really busy. We had a really busy spring, and so we're still recovering from that. But of course, like I said, we have Dollywood coming up in October, and then we have the Mohican Bluegrass Festival that comes up on September 16th, and then we have let's see, I'll be doing a couple of solo shows myself in the earlier parts of September in North Carolina, and let's see, goodness gracious. Oh, I have a good schedule right here. Oh, Bean Blossom, Indiana. That's right. Thank you for that. Bean Blossom, we're going to be there in September. We're excited to be there. I believe we're there on September 22nd. IBMA, we're going to be at IBMA. Got a couple of shows there. I'm an official songwriter showcase this year, and we just got a lot of exciting things coming up, and I feel very blessed.
Mhm. That's awesome. I wish you all the best of luck with those shows. And I think talking to you makes me appreciate the American South a bit more. I'm someone who's like completely unfamiliar with it. Like all my knowledge of American culture comes from three places: Hollywood, New York, and Washington, D.C. And those are
Oh Lord.
particularly not really Southern at all. I think the only real approach I have to the American South is the show Breaking Bad, which is set in New Mexico. What's about that?
Oh God. I've never seen that show. I've heard people talk about it, but I'm more of a Grey's Anatomy person myself. So
Yeah, it's a long running show, isn't it? Like it's kind of like those shows when when a given mom starts watching it when it's first started, and then 20 years later, her daughter is still like watching it and still continuing. Yeah, yeah. My mom is a big fan of those kind of long running series too.
I love them. I don't watch a lot of TV. I make it a point to try not to keep my screen time down quite a bit because I'm on my phone
Yeah.
constantly all the time. So I don't watch a lot of TV. I read. I'm a big bookworm, but I do love my Grey's Anatomy and my forensic files. I'm very, very interested in that thing.
Hmm. Yeah. So well, what are some of your most recent reads? I'm also a big reader myself.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just got distracted. I just got a Facebook message from a robot that said he loves me. So
Hmm.
sorry about that. I was like, goodness, who is that? But some of my recent reads are thrillers. I love to read thrillers, and so I'll read a lot of twisty books. I love books with twists and turns, and of course, Stephen King, those types of books. I'm interested in those, but mainly I love your psychological thriller, those types of books. Right now, I'm reading an actual coming of age classic, which is kind of a palate cleanser for me right now, a literary palate cleanser, if you will. I'm reading Looking for Alaska by John Green.
Oh,
So kind of revisit those. You probably read that book too, but so mainly psychological thrillers, but I love my coming of age classics too.
mhm. I think my favorite of the coming of age novels is obviously Catcher in the Rye by Salinger. I think that is the book that got me into reading.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's a good one. I actually haven't I read this one before. I was shocked that I didn't read it as a teenager, and I wish that I would have.
Mhm. Speaking of thrillers, have you heard of this one novel called was it The Executioners by John D. MacDonald?
No, I haven't seen that one.
It was adapted into Hollywood films two times, but both of them under the name of Cape Fear because that is the location where the climax of the film took place. Yeah. I would recommend the later adaptation with Nick Nolte and Robert De Niro, and then Robert De Niro plays an excellent like Southern accent, which is impeccable. He's really great. But
As
then
Southern as mine?
comparable.
A comparable. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Robert De Niro plays this bad guy who was convicted because of obviously a sexual assault charge, and he served out his sentence, and he was looking to take revenge on the very man who defended him in court because
Oh wow.
yeah because the defense lawyer, sorry, he deliberately made a legal mistake, and that was what committed Robert De Niro into prison, and so he's looking for revenge. But what's so interesting about it is that Robert De Niro in jail, during his time in jail, he learned to read, and particularly he learned how the law works. And so, as he was tormenting Nick Nolte, the defense lawyer, he was doing it in such a way that only skirts but do not break the law.
Yeah. Oh man, I will have to check this out.
Yeah, so I'd say both the novel by John D. McDonald as well as the movie is really great too. And it's
Awesome.
really short, so you can take it on the road.
Yeah, I will check it out. Say it again. What was it?
Is the book is The Executioners, but the novel is no, but the movie is Cape Fear. So either is all right by me. Yeah, so I can
Cool.
send it to you later on when we are
Yes,
done with
email me.
this. So so final question, one that I ask every musician who gets on this program. What does music mean to you?
Hmm. What does it mean? Music to me means being 100% who I am. And it allows me to say the things that I need to say. It allows me to get out there what I need to just release. And it allows me a human interaction with people that I don't even know. It allows me to just go out on stage and be whoever, for whatever song I need to be. But also 100% being me. I guess when it comes down to it, music to me is authentic, and it means that I get to be who I am 100%. I don't have to put anything on. I don't have to, put a mask, on or mask something, or I can just let it all go. And I can be 100% authentic and real and say, these are the songs that I'm going to sing, and this is what they mean. Here they are. I hope that you like them too. And music to me is connection. If I had to sum it up in one describing word, it's a connection. It's something that it's a universal language, and we all know that it's universal, but it's something that connects us all. It relates us. It's something that we can all relate to, whether it's heartbreak, like we talked about, that we're singing about, whether it's a happy song, whether it's something that is being sang at a funeral, It's something that we all can relate to, and it's a human connection. Music to me is a form of connection.
Well, I can say the same myself. On that wonderful note, thank you very much, Caroline Owens, for joining this program.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, best of luck with all your musical endeavors, and take very good care of yourself.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.